Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. We're going to talk today about Home Control Assistant and Insteon Motion Sensors and how we're going to utilize them in the program. Come on along. Now Insteon has an older model, that's this one here. This runs on a 9-volt battery, and it has the newer one, which they've made quite a few improvements to. It uses a longer lasting battery, and if you have this in an area that you have access to an outlet, you can power this with micro USB cable. So it makes it a little bit more versatile in how you can use this one over the older one. Now on my front porch, I have this sensor, and I have a switch. Now in the previous video, I discussed how to add these devices into Home Control Assistant, and I'll put a link to that here. Now for this one, we're going to get into how to utilize them. And there's two ways to program these devices. One is with what's called the Visual Scene Editor. And this is something that is built into Insteon devices. So in this case, we would right click on the front porch motion sensor, and it's going to go to the first group, which is is there motion detected. So we would just take the patio lights, bring them into the scene, tell it to turn on 100%, and it could be 50% or whatever, and you could do that here or here, and we can have it even ramp up slowly over time. But let's just say we want 100%. We would hit OK, and we would program that. And what that does is it goes to the motion sensor and the front patio light switch, and every time there's motion detected, it's going to automatically turn the front patio lights on. Now, the thing is too, is when there's no motion, it's going to automatically turn the lights off. Well, there's no motion, turn the lights off. What if you did want them to stay on for a time? You wouldn't want to utilize something like this. So we're going to close this out and hit yes, go ahead. Because this is a case of if this, then that. If that's what you want, then that's the way to go. But that's not what we want for this. What we're going to want to do is have it under a program control. So you might say, well, George, wouldn't you just go to properties here and click on the trigger? Well, as you see, there's no triggers for this device. So no. What we'll want to do is scroll down here, click on Home, under Folders, right click on this part of the window, and select Program. Now we're going to call this Front Patio Light Movement On. Hit next, next, and finish, and here is our blank program. So here we would right click, hit the properties, and go to this triggers tab. Now it might not be here by default, but you just have to click it, and you go to add a trigger. Now we're going to say the front patio motion sensor group 1, which is the movement. Group 2 is dusk or dawn, because these have a built-in light sensor. And then group 3 is the battery. So we want to say if there's motion detected, that would be the on command. It will trigger the visual program that we're going to create here. Now what we'll want to do is just move this over, and you want to delete this line. The way this works is the program will follow the line. So let's say that this is in a good area where it can tell the difference between dusk and dawn. Where I have mine, it's by a lamp post, so that light sensor doesn't really wouldn't work all that well because it would always see it being light or dawn. But let's take a look at that. So what we do is perform a test. So what we want us to do is go to test the front porch motion sensor 2. If it's on, that means that there's light. So we would test for that and simply say here, if it's on, which means there's light, make sure the front patio lights are off. If there's no light, meaning that it's sunset or dusk, make sure turn on the front patio lights on full. And then we would simply exit the program. Remember what I said is the program follows the arrow. So we click the start and we do the first link. Move your cursor to the red border, left click and hold, and connect it to the first test. So now branching off that would be to off, because this is always yes, and when you do it a second time, it's always no. Now we also need to link these to the exit program so that once it's done that action, it knows to go ahead and leave. Click the validate, it'll test it just to make sure that everything appears to be correct, and everything is. And once we hit OK, we're done. Now, alternatively, and let's get back into this, because in my situation, this sensor is always going to see light. We're going to go ahead and delete this command here. And the test that we're going to perform is the time between. We're going to say after the sun is set, but before the sun has risen. So what we're saying is it is the time after the sun is set, but before the sun has risen. So if that answer is yes, we're going to go here and link it to on, because the first link is always yes. The second link is off. So let's go back to this and make sure we got this right. So it's after sunset, but before sunrise. Yes, turn the patio lights on. If it's daytime, after sunrise, but before sunset, then make sure that the patio lights are off. We hit OK. And don't forget, once you delete it, you have to relink it to your start because it's gotten rid of all the links. So let's make sure it's valid. It is, and we're going to hit OK. Now remember, like I said, it's going to test to make sure that your program is going to run properly. Now we also have to create a second program. And this program is going to be front patio lights off. Next, next, and finish. So now we're going to again go to the trigger here, and the trigger is going to be the front porch motion sensor group 1 is off. So once it's not detecting motion, it's going to go to the visual programmer. We're going to again move this over and delete this line, and we're going to tell it to issue the command off. And we're going to select the front patio lights. And then we're going to link from our start to here. From here, we're going to link it to exit and hit OK. Now you might say, I've created a program that does the same exact thing that doing the visual scene editor would have done. And you'd be right. But the difference here is that we can also put different qualifications with this. Okay, I could also test for what is the current state of the home control assistant. Is it home and awake? If it is, it'll behave one way. If it's not, it'll behave a different way. So that's what makes this better. I hope you guys enjoyed that video. This is just kind of a get you familiar with motion sensors, how you can control them with Home Control Assistant. Again, it's very easy. We're going to get into other things because, like I said, with this, the way I wrote that program, it's going to do the same thing as it would have done in the visual scene editor. But later on, we're going to get into the switch. If you turn the switch on, then the lights are going to stay on until you hit that switch off. Then once that switch is turned off, it's going to revert back to the behavior that it had before, meaning that when the motion sensor detects motion, it's going to turn on. When the motion sensor doesn't detect motion, it's going to turn off. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section down below. Please hit a like and subscribe. There's going to be more videos coming, and we'll see you guys in the next one.